I've been playing video games for most of my life, since I was 7 years old. And over that time, like many gamers, I've amassed a selection of favorites, and today I thought I'd list out my top 10 of all time. Now keep in mind that these are obviously just my opinions and not any statement on what the best games are. And secondly, while I've played a lot of games in my life, my favorites are a bit more selective, as I could say. So there might be some games on the same series on this list. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin. I've been very off and on with the Mario series. Played a bit of 64 and liked it fine enough. I dabbled a bit in the classic left-to-right jump and bounce Mario games, and a bit in Super Mario for the DS. But outside of that, and some of my time I spent on Mario Kart Double Dash, I haven't really been one to partake in Mario games. All except for one, Super Mario Odyssey. Oddly enough, Mario Odyssey was the first Switch game I ever bought. I played it for a while, but never really showed a lot of interest in it. That is until I did a Let's Play of it for this channel. I kept pace with the game and found myself really loving the controls, the environments, and especially the capture ability, allowing Mario to take over enemies and use their special traits to solve puzzles and defeat enemies. Probably one of the most unique mechanics I've ever seen in any game. I haven't touched it much since the Let's Play, but I still dabble in the worlds every now and again, and Super Mario Odyssey will continue to provide joy for me for years to come. I wouldn't call myself much of a Zelda fan. I've dabbled in a few titles and even completed some of them, but I don't go out of my way to purchase them often or get excited when one new one is released. However, the start of my association with the Zelda franchise had to have come from the first open world 3D Zelda, Breath of the Wild. I don't know what it is about this game that drove me into it so heavily, but I played it for tens of hours, gathering supplies, defeating bosses, and completing the 120 shrines placed throughout the world. I probably spent more time in this game than any other Zelda franchise, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I would eventually sell my physical copy some time ago and haven't purchased it since then, but when I got my current gaming laptop, I downloaded a ROM for it for Semu Emulator and played the hell out of the game. Sadly, for some reason, I can no longer get it to work on Semu, but I did have to leave the Switch version available, which I've also been playing a ton of. Bottom line is, no matter what version I played, I've always enjoyed Breath of the Wild, and I'll probably play it again from the beginning not far from the future. Back in 2015, my friend Ben and I went to a gaming cafe. It was the first time I'd ever seen a gaming PC up close. It was a cheap $10 to play up to 4 hours on their machines, so we decided to drop the cash and check it out. And while I was obsessed with finding out if the computers could run the Dolphin emulator, Ben was playing a game I'd never seen before, Warframe. At the time, I was kind of in charge of Ben's spending habits, and he said he wanted to buy the game in currency to buy something he wanted. I remember very clearly telling him that in-game purchases are a waste of money. I tried the game anyway, but couldn't get into it. I wasn't a fan of third-person shooters back then. So colorfully surprised by fast-forwarding 5 years later, when my brother Alex told me about the same game, at this time I had a laptop that was powerful enough to play Dolphin and Warframe, so I decided to give it another shot. The difference was staggering. Whatever prevented me from enjoying the game in 2015 was completely gone now. I would play for hours upon hours, only stopping for meals and bathroom breaks. I also was in charge of my brother's spending, and my leftover cash we had went straight into Warframe. I spent a total of over $1,300 on Warframe in 5 years, and have reached Mastery Rank Legendary 3 because of it. I've also amassed over 1,200 hours of gameplay in the game. Needless to say, I think this is one of my favorite games ever made, so I knew I had to include it. I have been a Naruto fan since middle school, watching the anime on Toonami back in the mid-2000s. I would make sure every time a new episode dropped, I was watching it, and that naturally led me to becoming acquainted with the video games. The first one I played was Naruto Clash of Ninja, the first Naruto game we ever got. And me and my brother Marcus would play the hell out of this every time we'd hang out. This would also lead me to playing Naruto Clash of Ninja 2. Increased roster, more characters and stages, more single-player options. This game had it all. I always got my ass kicked by my brother too. Those were fun times. However, I never played any of the Naruto games for quite a while, not until Marcus showed me a game for the PS4, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. God, that's a mouthful. He showed me, we played, and he absolutely devastated me using Onoki. It'd be honestly a couple of years before I try it again, this time on Steam for myself. And damn did I play this a ton. Probably my favorite piece of Naruto media out there, to be honest. I spent hours mastering the gameplay mechanics, the special jutsus, and how different it was from the Clash of Ninja series. I'm still pretty bad at the game, but I don't care because the game is still fun as hell. Still haven't challenged my brother to a rematch of it though. Maybe I should now that I'm better at it. Oh well, a video for the future. I have been a Metroid fan for 15 years now. Ever since 2009 when I played Metroid Prime for the first time. I was also made a fan during the fallout we saw after Other M's release and subsequent failure to reach its target audience, and especially the wider audience worldwide. So a few years ago, when Nintendo announced that we were getting Metroid Dread, I lost my shit. This is hands down my favorite 2D Metroid game. Where do I begin? The controls are buttery smooth. Samus has the right amount of weight to her movements, the power selection is perfect, iconic, and really shows the progression of strength throughout the game. From getting the wide beam to the plasma beam to the wave beam, from the regular missile to the super missile to the ice missile and finally the storm missile, the way this game plays is second to none and I highly recommend it. I've speedrun this game over 20 times since it came out, and 100%ed it more times than I care to count. Metroid Dread is without a doubt the definitive 2D Metroid experience, and I'm probably going to do another playthrough of it right after I finish the script. It's that damn good. My top 5 favorite games was originally what this video was going to be about, but I figured 5 wasn't enough, so I kind of slapdashed the early placements in to make this video a coherent topic. So why on earth would I put something as simple as BanjoKazooie above Metroid Dread? I'll tell you. Mostly because there's another Metroid game I like more, which I'll talk about soon. And secondly, because my top 5 favorite games I can rattle off to anyone without a second thought, and it starts with this N64 classic. I remember getting Banjo and Kazooie from a friend of my mom's in the early 2000s, and playing it till my thumbs went numb. BanjoKazooie is my favorite 3D platformer. I love the cheeriness the game exudes, like you're just going out for a dainty stroll through the countryside when you boot it up. Its unique level concepts from a beach to a watery trash system, to a ship in an oily port, to a tree where you travel the 4 seasons to gather collectibles. All of it just feels homey to me. I played this game every day after school, trying to search for all the collectibles, uncovering secrets, and using the in-game cheat codes to make my journey even easier. I especially remember Clanker's Cavern. I remember my brother Marcus was over one day, and we were trying to find a way to raise Clanker up while still having enough air not to die. We died like a dozen times before we found out that the little glub fish in the bottom of the area would give us air bubbles to breathe. It's a small thing, but shit like that makes you remember a video game. And it sure as hell left an impression on me, even years later. I've been playing the Super Smash Bros. Series since its beginnings. My first copy of Super Smash Bros. For the 64 was given to me by my brother Marcus after he sold his N64 to buy a PS1 when we were about 9 years old. The game was actually cracked, so if you bumped it while it was plugged in, the game wouldn't read the save file and you'd end up back on a clean file. Luckily, my mom had some tape to close the cartridge back up and we were able to continue our smashing adventures. Soon I would acquire a copy of Melee as my first GameCube game my mom bought me for Christmas one year. My mom and I had no clue you needed memory cards for it, so I had to keep my GameCube on at all times for about a month before my mom found a memory card for us to use it on. My brother would constantly kick my ass in the game as well. He'd always choose Fox, which we didn't know at the time was until a decade later was the best character, and the only character I could possibly beat him with was Falco, the second best character. Smash Bros. Brawl was a game I played at a GameStop kiosk every day for a month. I legitimately unlocked every fighter in that game too. So much fun. But my favorite Smash Bros. Game has got to be Ultimate. Why? How could it not be? It has every fighter in it from across the whole series, almost every stage, though ones like Melee's Poké Floats and Wii's Orbital Assault were left on the cutting room floor. But the fighting mechanics were an amazing balance between the Melee's quickness and Smash 4's heaviness. The sound of the impacts are also crunchy and guttural. And the new selection of characters from Pyra and Mithra to Banjo and Kazooie and even the obscure ones like Min Min were included. Altogether, Smash Ultimate has given me thousands of hours of joy, and I know that it won't stop even when I inevitably get the sequel on the Switch too. In a world filled with endless amounts of JRPGs, why would something seemingly so obscure as Xenoblade Chronicles 2 make it to my number 3 spot in my all-time favorite games list? Let me tell you. Firstly, when I first heard about this game, I was living at the homeless shelter back in 2018. I was looking for something new to play, and while I was at my local GameStop, I asked the clerk about Xenoblade 2 was any good. He told me a lot about Xenoblade 1 players wrote the game off as an anime fanfiction, and decided it wasn't a good game based solely on appearances. While I really like anime fanfiction, so I decided to buy the game strictly on that basis. Yes, I bought the game because other people hated it. I know I'm weird. Well, when I got it home, I started it up and the game confused the fuck out of me. I had no idea how the fighting mechanics were supposed to work, and even with tutorials, I was still confused. After I got past the first major boss battle, I shut the game off, assuming the game had an autosave feature. I only found out the next day after going home from work that day that wasn't the case. But I was determined to press forward. This game's gameplay was strange to me. It wasn't a turn-based RPG, but rather an active battle format where you would chain attacks together with your teammates to dish out combos to deal big damage. There was a break, topple, launch, and smash mechanic that was really weird to rack up damage. And you could attach elemental orbs to the monsters and enemies that would break when you completed something called the driver combo. Definitely an unusual fighting system, but after consulting some guides, I found my footing. I genuinely loved the gacha mechanics as well when awakening new blades. It was always so exciting every time I got a new core crystal, seeing what kind of blade was inside. And I also adored the story. It's a bit cliched, I know, but that along with the fan service peppered throughout the game kept me engaged. All this and more cements Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as my third favorite game of all time. Remember how earlier in the video I said there'd be another Metroid game higher up? Well, here it is. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. God, I adore this game. Oddly enough, Metroid Prime 2 used to be my least favorite Metroid game in the series because of just how fucking hard it was. I got my ass kicked numerous times playing it, and would need to bring my GameCube and the game to my friend Troy, who was also the one who gifted me the game's house, and have him beat the bosses for me. I was really just that bad at it. However, when our friendship dissolved, I had to find out a way to beat the bosses on my own. The one who gave me the most consistent hell was the Boost Guardian. Without cheat codes, it was only possible to have a maximum of 5 energy drinks before going into the fight. And in that tiny-ass arena it's located in, with no light crystals of protection from the dark aether atmosphere, you had little protection. Plus, it would constantly go into a boost state and zoom around the arena doing massive damage if it hit you. And you just had to hope and pray that it would destroy one of the 4 pillars in the room to give you an energy pickup if necessary. Truly an annoying boss. But once I was able to clear it, I continued on and noticed how strong Samus became throughout the game. I love the dichotomy between the light and dark worlds, utilizing the light and dark beams to destroy your enemies and defeat towering bosses. Plus, the bosses were threatening and extremely strong. I love the feeling of overcoming a strong but fair challenge, and Metroid Prime 2 hit all those notes for me. I don't usually play the game normally anymore, preferring to cheat my way through the playthrough because of just how enjoyable it is for me. But I can still go back to this game anytime, anywhere. And lastly, fun fact, this was the game I wanted to play on my phone the most, and it was eventually what led to me to buying my Samsung Galaxy S20 and finally completing my journey to find a phone that could emulate GameCube games. So I have this game to thank for that too, I guess. Let's be honest, you knew a Pokemon game would take the top spot. I am, after all, predominantly a PokeTuber, so it's to be expected. But which Pokemon game I was going to choose was the toughest question. I love Emerald, I've been playing that game since high school. Fun fact actually, Pokemon Emerald got me expelled from my sophomore year of school. My mom didn't know she bought me a bootleg cartridge, and when I tried transferring Pokemon from it to my copy of Pokemon XD, it froze, causing me to have to shut the game off while it was saving, while corrupting the save file, causing it to delete itself every time I could beat the game. But nah, Emerald is great and all, but it's not my number one. So what about Platinum? I played that game throughout high school and loved it. Same with White and White 2. In X and Y, I even spent hundreds of hours breeding for Chinese and Pokemon for IVs for competitive play. And Scarlet and Violet are currently sitting at the most hours of game time I have in a single game ever, with over 2,500 in Violet and 3,500 in Scarlet. But no, my favorite Pokemon game, indeed my favorite game ever made, is Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. This is a game I have replayed more than any other. The amount of time I have shoved into this game is probably well over 10,000 hours over the course of 20 years that I'm playing it. But why though? Why is this weird spin-off game my favorite of all time? I have no idea, but I have some theories. I spent long hours in my childhood grinding in this game to mount battle. I love the concept of the Shadow Pokemon, having to befriend them in order for you to use them in battle. It created a sense of closeness and bonding to these Pokemon that no other game, for me at least, has ever been able to accomplish. My first save file of my old memory card, which I sadly no longer own, I actually maxed the time clock out on, capping out at over 999 hours and 59 minutes. I continued playing the game after that, for the next 5 years and continuing afterwards. When I got my copy of Emerald, I traded my Rayquaza, Latias, and other legendaries, and even starters over to play them on XD. I even went through the hell of breeding a female Feebas with Dragon Breath in Emerald, just so that I could evolve it and use it in XD. This game personified my gaming life in the 2000s and mid-2010s, and I still continue to get endless amounts of joy at it even today. I even went out of my way to buy a Pokemon XD themed GameCube because it was the first GameCube I ever owned, and the disc reader sadly died. All because I adored this game so much. I had the most downtime and fun just grinding on my Pokemon in this game, and I know I'm never stopping. In fact, I just got done grinding more Pokemon from my emulated copy just a few hours before finishing this part of the script. Now that's staying power. And it's for all these reasons that I put Pokemon X Gale of Darkness as my number one favorite game of all time. Holy cow, been a while since I wrote a hefty script like this, but I certainly hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I enjoyed making it. And hey, if you're new here, why not like the video, subscribe, and check out some more content on the screen. I've been making YouTube videos for close to 9 years, so I'm sure I've got something you'd like to watch. Either way, thank you for watching all the way to the end, and until next time, this has been ZDS, I get to find one video at a time, and I'll see you guys in the next video.